Warning: the following video contains a lot of terrible English. To his defense, Mike didn't write a script for this one and was tired and stressed out from work when shooting this. He's still uploading this video because it contains a lot of truth and it might help some of you make an educated buying decision. Also, he needs all the clicks that he can get. Proceed at your own risk and please be kind.
Hi guys, this is Mike and this will be a quick shootout between 3 different manual follow focus systems for your camera. I watched a lot of YouTube reviews and went back and forth between these systems, but in the end I decided to order all 3 of them and test them for myself. So we've got the Neewer follow focus here, which is approximately $37 on Amazon right now. Then we have the SmallRig mini follow focus f40, which is approximately $100. And the Tilta mini follow focus, which is another $100. What's in the box? Well, let me open them quickly. Okay, so the good news is that all 3 of those systems come feature complete. So basically, if you have a rail system or a rig system on your camera, you can take these out of the box and you are good to go. The Neewer is basically the most basic one. It comes with a manual, it has the gear ring and the follow focus system itself. We have the same things on the SmallRig plus an extension rod in case you want to install it another way, which I'll show you later. And the same is true for the Tilta, which has this nice little hard box here, and it also comes with 2 Allen wrenches in case you need them. All 3 of those, I don't know if I said it already, have a manual, so installation should be no problem. And by the way, on the Neewer, the gear ring is made out of plastic, which is pretty rigid, while on these other 2, it's made out of rubber, right? So more movement and yeah. Okay, let's talk about quality of build for a second. Let's start with the cheapest one. So I have to be honest, the Neewer feels a tiny little bit flimsy in comparison to the other 2 follow focus systems. So these 2 parts are made out of metal and the screws obviously are metal as well, while all of that is made out of plastic. The good news is that because the installation system is a little bit different than on the other 2, I think that as long as this part here works, right, you will never have a problem finding replacement parts for this, right? So that I actually like, and that's, I guess, the good part for this system. The SmallRig is mostly made out of metal, I feel, even inside. And I actually like that you have access to all the screws here, which is not the case on the Tilta. More about that in a moment. So again, if one of those screws breaks, because they're always in movement, right? You always work with them when you install these parts, this system here. So if one of those screws break, you can easily replace them. They're not fixed or anything, but they're free to access. So that's great as well. You can also change the direction of the gear wheel, so you can work on the other direction basically. That's great. Let's go to the Tilta. And the first thing that I noticed when I unboxed it is, it feels good, right? So all the important parts are again made out of metal, but this screw here seems a little bit suspicious. So that screw is to put this part in position, right? But the way I see it, when this screw breaks or loosens up or something, you have no access to change that. Maybe you can open the whole thing here, and maybe then you can put it down or something, and then you have maybe access. But yeah, it seems kind of like bad design basically, or it's not designed so you could change that. Other than that, I feel these 2 are definitely on par. As you can see, the Tilta is a little bit bigger than the SmallRig. We'll talk about usability in a moment. Another thing that might interest you is that 2 of these systems have hard stops, right? So basically what that means is you have these screws here. Let's say this is mounted on your rail system and you're good to go on your camera. And basically you have your starting point of the focus and your end point. Then you have this latch here. And basically, okay, I made it like this maybe. Let's do it like that. And you have the whole thing. So this is the starting point. something in the foreground maybe, and then you have something in the background, and it will stop, right? If you don't want to use these hard stops, you can either let them tighten up and you just open this latch and then you're good to go, right? There's no resistance there, so that is great. And on the Tilta, we don't have this unlatching thing. So that's a little bit of a bummer actually, because if you're not planning to use the hard stops, you can't unscrew them totally. They will always be dangling around here. Right now you can't see that actually, but they are like, sometimes they get stuck and it looks like that, right? So it's not, and you can't unscrew them. There's a stop there, right? So it's not the most perfect system in my opinion. SmallRig got this covered better. And on the Neewer, we have no hard stops whatsoever. We do have two markings basically, and we have this white surface here, and I guess the idea behind that is you could like make your own markings with a pencil and then move there. Yeah, by the way, hard stops only work on cinema lenses anyway, right? If you have like a normal lens that has like an endless focus ring, you can forget the hard stops. You will never find the same position on your lens, right? So these are only working on cinema lenses. And speaking of which, here's my first tip if you consider one of these follow focus systems. These things here, these gear rings that these things come with, take them and throw them away immediately. That's my first tip. And buy yourself these seamless follow focus rings. They are like maybe $10 on Amazon, but they save you so much hassle. Yesterday I went out with all of these three follow focus systems, and I had like, I think this here on my lens installed, and it was just annoying because it kept getting stuck between my lens and the follow focus. I think I have some footage of that. It was really annoying and basically ruined my day yesterday. And so I went out and bought a seamless follow focus ring and installed it here, and it's much better. And it's only $10. So if you are investing in one of these follow focus systems, take that, throw it away, buy yourself one of those seamless ones, right? Speaking of which, another very important part, a major part in my opinion, is the usability or the handling, right? And basically we have three very different feelings when you use those follow focus systems. So let's start with the cheapest one, the Neewer. This follow focus system, first of all, I really like that there's no delay whatsoever, right? So as soon as you turn this thing, the gear ring moves. And that is really awesome, and that's not like a given, because I think on the Tilta it's different. We'll talk about it in a minute. But also what's interesting, we have the most resistance here, right? You need a little bit of strength and power and patience and time to move this thing. All of these units are brand new, by the way. So I don't know, maybe this will loosen up in time. The way I see it, there's no way to like loosen it up. That's not designed to be loosened up. It is what it is, and it's pretty rigid. It's pretty tough. So the great thing is, I noticed yesterday, the great thing is you have a lot of control. If you have shaky hands or whatever, you will never like shake and then your focus will go to the front and to the back. That will never happen because it's so rigid. You need to consciously move this thing, right? So that is great. The bad thing on the system is that I tried yesterday to have an object really close to the lens, and one was miles away on the horizon. So it was a pretty long distance between the first focus point and the second. And what happened was that it took ages. Like it was just half of the circle I had to move, but it took ages to do that carefully. If you do it like violently, there will be micro jitters on your footage, right? So we don't want that. So if you want to do it carefully, it's it feels pretty rigid, it feels pretty controllable, but it takes very long time. I don't know if you ever plan to do like very long, focus difference points, right? A very close object and an object that is miles away. But in that case, this might not be for you, right? I feel, the SmallRig. The SmallRig is the opposite of the Neewer. It's the easiest to move. It's definitely the easiest to move. And again, we have no delay, so this gear ring moves as soon as this moves. However, because it's very easy to move. Very easy. I can do it with 2 fingers. I could not, I think, do that on the Neewer. Yeah, I could, but look at the difference, right? It's really very rigid, and this is not. This is very loose, right? So the good thing is there's possibility for fast focus changes, right? The bad thing is, I feel, that you have to practice it, I guess. You have to practice to be calm and to make it easy, right? To make it really nice and calm, because you don't want like fast movements, right, on your focus. Or maybe you want to, I don't know. But yeah, that's just what I noticed yesterday. And yes, and the third follow focus, in my opinion, has a problem. So these two are equal in the sense that they are very fluid, right? No matter where you are on the wheel, no matter which position, it always feels the same. The resistance, it's loose here and it's pretty rigid here, but they feel the same. That's not the case on the Tilta. So I don't know why that is. Maybe I got a faulty unit. I don't believe it. It was brand new when I got it. It was still in the ceiling, but we don't have like an even circle. It feels like there's a part with X resistance, and then there's a small part with Y resistance, then with, B resistance, A resistance, different points of resistance. And you cannot really, and I feel it even when doing this, it almost feels like holes in the wheel or something. So we have, it feels so strange. It feels like a clock that's not ticking correctly, right? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? It feels as if something is not balanced there, I guess, or I don't know. But that's something that I noticed. The resistance by itself, by the way, is, I would say, a middle between these two, between the very loose SmallRig and the very rigid Neewer, right? Yeah, that's the case. And I also don't like these hard stops here. They keep like flapping around. Don't really like that. Even when they should stay on the bottom because they're not fixed or something. They don't, they come up. It's not perfect, right? Yeah, so that was my opinion on the usability. Okay, so installation or setup is pretty straightforward, especially on the Neewer. You can see you have your 15mm holes for your rail system. So you put that on, right? Go to your rubber focus ring, put that here, and fix the screw on the bottom. The problem with that is if you want to reach this screw, right, to adjust the height or something, that's pretty narrow here, right? Not a lot of space. It would have been so cool if the screw would go there or something. I know that's pretty hard, but yeah, because right now we have to do, maybe you can adjust the height first, right? And then screw it closer, right? That's also possible. And we are basically good to go. So very easy to do. Not a lot of hassle there, but you need a rail or rod system with that. That's not the case on the SmallRig, because here you can use one of your rods, right? Let me loose that a little bit. So we go here, we tighten one screw, we tighten the second screw, good access to both of them, and that's it, we are good to go. Plus, as I mentioned earlier, we have this extension piece and a clamp, right? So in theory, if you have a cage, you could also install the clamp on here, on the cage. You could use your extension and then install the SmallRig follow focus from the top, right? So that's possible as well if you don't have or don't want to use a 15mm rail system. Yeah, two ways. I like that they both give you both options there. And yeah, and let's check quickly the Tilta. It should be the same. It should be exactly the same as on the SmallRig. Wait, where can I? Ah, yeah, that's the one screw I don't like. That adjusts the angle here, and you don't really have nice access to that. I mean, it's not a screw that you will use very often, I guess. Maybe it's just set and forget. Here we are, and it works, right? Yeah, it works. And the same is true. What I said about the SmallRig, the same is true for the Tilta. I'm just looking for the part. Yeah, it's here. So basically, you have an extra clamp. You have an extra clamp. Oh, but it's another one. So how would you install that? You would have to install it like, you would have to install it. Where do you install that? Actually, this is one of those things, when I'm looking back at this, when I'm editing this video on my computer, I will be like, you stupid moron. It's logical, just install it there and there, maybe here. Would that be possible? I don't know. Yeah. So again, the system on the SmallRig is better. Yeah, I don't know. When I find it out, I will write it in the video, right? So yeah, but there you have it. Basically, these are the two ways to install the Tilta, two ways to install the SmallRig, and one way to install the Neewer. Okay, so now this is the end of the video, and here are my opinions on these follow focus systems. And let's start with the cheapest one, the Neewer. And for being so cheap, I'm actually quite surprised how good and sturdy this thing feels. I cannot tell you anything about the durability or if this thing will break down in 2 months of use or something. But as I can tell, just by using it for 2 days now, I really like it. It's not perfect. I would have wished for a better system to mount it on your rod system, but I really like it. And I actually do like that it has this very rigid resistance here, and you have to consciously move the wheel, right? And to be honest, out of these three, when it just comes to moving and setting focus, this feels the best, surprisingly. Just because there is so much resistance and you have full control, and little jitters in your hand won't do any difference. So for that reason, I really like this part, and I'm really thinking about if I'm not going to keep this one. Because the second exemplar that I would probably like to keep is the SmallRig, right? The SmallRig is the opposite of that. It's more sophisticated. It has the hard stops. Really like the system with the sledge here. You can change the direction of the wheel. And it is a very low resistance, right? So it's very easy to move, but it is $100. It is $100. It also has two ways to install it, right? As I showed you, either on your rails or on your cage, right? So that's also something to consider. Yeah, what I forgot to mention, of course, is if you plan to do like extreme focus changes, as I mentioned, from a very close object to something that is miles away, this might not be for you. This might not be for you then. Or maybe it even is. I don't know if that is standard, this rigid resistance, or if that's just my exemplar. But I mean, you can consciously move it faster. It's really difficult. So the Tilta, I'm sorry, there are so many things wrong basically with the Tilta. The hard stop system is not good. The wheel doesn't spin even, right? It's kind of wobbly. And also this screw here, well, it's not the most trustworthy design I've ever seen. So the Tilta is not something that I would suggest for you to try out. But between these two, it's really difficult. I mean, I realized this is $100 and this is 40, and I bet that you can have great results with the Neewer. I'm certain of that. But it's not for everyone. And also this screw here, as I showed you, if you have a big lens, this might be a problem as well, right? But yeah, so these are my opinions, basically. These two I really like, this one I don't. Yeah, what do you think, guys? Leave a comment. Maybe you have experience with all three of them. Am I totally wrong about the Tilta? I don't know, you tell me. Sorry for the rambling around. I didn't write a script for this one. And that's what happens when I don't. By the way, tip number 2, I forgot. If you install these things and you have a friend that could pull focus, buy this. This is another $15 on Amazon. It comes in different sizes. The shorter it is, the cheaper it is. But it's really cool, and also you don't touch the wheel itself, right? So you can install this basically on your stand or something, and you don't have to touch any part of this, because maybe you have shaky hands or something. You don't have to install anything, and you can pull focus, or a friend or your girlfriend or your wife or your husband can pull focus standing beside you, looking at the screen, at the monitor. And that's really cool. And all three of those follow focus have the ability to use that. This is like a follow focus extension on Amazon. I guess I will leave a link in the description, right? Really cool part. Highly suggest you try that out with a manual follow focus. Okay, so that's basically it. Guys, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.
With 2 eyes.